What if I told you that 400 years ago, a small Asian kingdom created the world's first ironclad warship? Not during World War II, not during the Industrial Revolution, but in 1592. This is the incredible story of Admiral Lee Sun-sin and his legendary turtle ship, a revolutionary vessel that saved an entire nation from conquest and changed naval warfare forever. Picture this. It's 1592, and Korea, then called Joseon, is caught between two superpowers. To the west lies Ming China, and, to the east, a newly unified Japan under the ambitious warlord Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Japan has just ended centuries of civil war and now dreams of conquering all of Asia. Starting with Korea as their stepping stone to China, the Japanese invasion force was massive. Over 150,000 troops in nearly 700 ships. Korea, a peaceful kingdom focused on art, literature, and Confucian learning, was completely unprepared. Within weeks, Japanese forces had captured Seoul and were racing toward the northern border with China. It seemed like Korea would fall in a matter of months. But Japan made one crucial miscalculation. They underestimated a 47-year-old Korean naval commander named Lee Sun-sin. Unlike most Korean officials, Lee was a military genius who understood that Korea's only hope lay in controlling the seas. If he could cut off Japanese supply lines from the ocean, their massive army on land would starve. He had something the Japanese didn't expect, a secret weapon that seemed to come straight out of science fiction. It was called the Geobukseon, or turtle ship, and it would become the stuff of legends. But here's what makes this story even more remarkable. He didn't just build one innovative ship. He revolutionized an entire navy, while being constantly undermined by his own government. Jealous court officials repeatedly removed him from command, even imprisoning him at one point. Yet every time Korea called him back, because without Lee Sun-sin, they simply couldn't win. So what made the turtle ship so special? Imagine a vessel that looked like nothing the world had ever seen. The entire top deck was covered with a curved, hexagonal iron shell, like a giant turtle's back, hence the name. This wasn't just for show. The iron plating made it virtually impenetrable to arrows, spears, and even early firearms. But here's the genius part. The shell was covered with iron spikes, making it impossible for enemy soldiers to board. A common naval tactic of the era, the ship was essentially a floating fortress that enemies couldn't penetrate or capture. The turtle ship bristled with cannons, dozens of them pointing in every direction. Unlike traditional warships that could only fire from the sides, the turtle ship could attack enemies from any angle. At the bow was a fearsome dragon head that didn't just look intimidating. It actually spewed smoke and fire, creating a psychological weapon that terrified enemy sailors. Inside, the ship was designed for maximum efficiency. Korean sailors could move safely below deck while operating the cannons through hidden gun ports. The design was so advanced that naval historians consider it centuries ahead of its time, predating the famous ironclad ships of the American Civil War by nearly 300 years. The first time Japanese commanders saw these strange turtle-like vessels emerging from Korean harbors, they must have thought they were facing sea monsters. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. At the Battle of Joseon in 1592, Lee Sun-sin's small fleet, including the turtle ships, completely destroyed a much larger Japanese force. But the most legendary battle came later, at Myeongryang Strait in 1597. Here's where the story becomes almost unbelievable. Lee Sun-sin had been imprisoned by his own king due to false accusations from rival officials. when he was finally released and reinstated, he found the Korean Navy destroyed, reduced to just 13 ships. The Japanese fleet, over 300 vessels. Any reasonable commander would have retreated or surrendered. Instead, Yi chose to fight at Myeongryang, a narrow strait where the tide changes create treacherous currents. Using his intimate knowledge of these waters and the superior design of his remaining ships, including at least one turtle ship, Yi achieved the impossible. His tiny fleet destroyed or disabled over 30 Japanese ships while losing none of their own. It's considered one of the greatest naval victories in human history. The impact of Yi Sun-sin and his turtle ships went far beyond individual battles. By controlling the seas, they starved the Japanese army on land, forcing them to eventually withdraw from Korea entirely. Japan wouldn't attempt another invasion of Korea for over 300 years, but the legacy goes deeper than military victory. The turtle ship represents something profound about human innovation and resilience. Here was a small nation that, when facing extinction, didn't just copy existing technology. They invented something completely new. They took the concept of naval warfare and reimagined it entirely. Yi Sun-sin himself became a symbol of incorruptible leadership. Despite constant political persecution, he never abandoned his duty to protect his people. When he finally died in battle in 1598, ironically, just as the Japanese were retreating, his last words were reportedly, "The battle is at its height. Don't let the men know I'm dead." Today, South Korea is known worldwide for technological innovation, from smartphones to electric cars to K-pop. But this tradition of innovation under pressure started over 400 years ago with Admiral Yi Sun-sin and his turtle ships. The next time you see a modern warship or hear about naval strategy, remember that many of the concepts we take for granted, ironclad armor, multi-directional firepower, psychological warfare, were pioneered by a Korean admiral and his revolutionary turtle-shaped ships. Yi Sun-sin proved that with brilliant leadership, innovative thinking, and unshakable determination, even the smallest nation can defend itself against overwhelming odds. In a world where we often feel powerless against larger forces, that's a lesson worth remembering. The turtle ship wasn't just a weapon. It was a symbol of human ingenuity, triumphing over impossible circumstances. And that story, 4 centuries later, still has the power to inspire us all.